Okay, so David Knowles here for Carbon and the City on CJAI, Amherst Island Radio. I'm the host, and I'm here talking with Brian Lipsin of Brian's Record Option, and we're going to be talking about how the shutdown of the city and everything else is affecting Brian right now. So, Brian, how's it affecting you?
How's it affecting me? Well, I'm closed for business for
Yeah.
the last 2 weeks. There's no income coming in, and I've been isolated at my farm.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time I've come to the city in a while. And
So when did you actually close the store?
I closed the store when Ford announced I was non-essential.
And that was
So whenever it was on so it was that Wednesday that I started closing. So a couple of Wednesdays ago.
Okay, yeah. I thought, yeah, okay, I got you, yeah.
And
So how you managing to pay the bills and so forth and so on?
well, been in business for 40 years. Actually, it's going to be 40 years in a couple of weeks.
40 years?
40 years of business.
Is that right?
That's right. So when you've been in business for 40 years, you have a bit of a cushion.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't run a business from the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
But, if it keeps going on, that's another story.
Yeah. And you also went through the flood, so that gave you lots of practice for
exactly.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
2018, August the 5th.
So that's a while ago. Yeah.
That's a while ago.
Yeah.
So I reopened my store. I was away for 8 months.
Okay.
I reopened March the 16th. So this March, so it's been about a year that I've been open.
Right, yeah, since the flood. And how long were you closed for the flood?
8 months.
8 months?
Yes.
So this is child's play to you.
Yes, it is. I'm looking at it as a vacation.
Yeah.
I haven't had a vacation in years.
Yeah.
And being isolated at the farm where there's very few people.
Right. Yeah.
It's sort of strange coming into the city right now.
Yeah. So what are you doing to occupy your time? You're a music lover, obviously, so you must be.
Well,
yeah.
I have 20,000 records.
20,000
in a barn, and it used to be a horse barn.
Yeah.
It was 12 stalls for horses.
Yeah.
Each stall has records. The first stall is A to G in records. The second stall is HIJK.
Right.
And it goes on like that. Now, in my garage, I still have records there, and what I've been doing is I've been bringing the records into the barn. Now, at the same time, I have this man coming to my house, to the farm a few times a week with 78s. He's unloading. God told him that he has to get rid of his 78s, which were from some store that the person died and just gave them to him, and he has too many. So I'm getting in close to 10,000 78s. So what I'm doing is I'm going through the 78s, and when I do come to the store, I divide them into what I think I could sell in the store and what can sit at the farm.
Right. Yeah.
And then I bring in the important 78s. And so I've been occupied with that right now. Also Facebook, I've been doing, I've been missing the interaction with people.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I've been putting stories of funny things that have happened in the store in the past. And a lot of people have been commenting and liking, and so I've been keeping in touch with people that way.
Okay. And just before I turned on the camera, you had said that you met John Prine.
Yes, it was I put that on my Facebook page a week or so ago. You want me to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Many years ago, I needed a vacation. I didn't know where to go.
Okay.
So there was a map of the world, or there's a map of North America, and I threw the dart.
Okay.
And it landed in the state of Colorado, which I've never been to. And I said, okay. So I was there. I was in Denver. I had a bad cold. I was wandering around. You know what it's like with a bad cold, and you're trying to find a place to eat, but nothing is right. And I was walking around like that, and then I heard my name being called, and I thought, no one knows me here. I'm hallucinating. And it turned out it was one of the musicians who was playing with the Cowboy Junkies. And said, "Are you coming to our next gig?" And I said, "What gig?" And he said, "Well, it's us and John Prine." I said, "You kidding?" So he gave me a ticket, and I was in the audience, and the Cowboy Junkies were playing. And then after when John Prine was setting up, the person next to me, this kid, was about to leave, and I said, "What, you just came here for the Cowboy Junkies?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Are you kidding?" And then I started telling him about John Prine, and I told him stories about, I told him that when he first came out with his record, and seemed to be the only one in Montreal who knew of him, because he was unknown. And then I mentioned a story to him about taking off a year from McGill, and I was throughout Europe, and I was in a urinal in Algeciras, Spain. And you usually don't talk to the person next to you in a urinal. But he happened to be whistling a tune from John Prine's first album, and I was stunned. And I looked at him and I said, "John Prine?" And he looked at me and said, "You know who John Prine is?" And before we knew it, we had a beer together afterwards and ended up going to Morocco. And anyways, I was telling him stories like this. And anyways, he stayed and saw John Prine, and then the musician came up to me and said, "Do you want to meet him? Do you want to come backstage?" And I said, "Sure." So I was backstage, and he brings John Prine down, and I was sort of tongue-tied. I had nothing to say. And John Prine was very shy also. And we were like a bunch of bumbling idiots. Because there was nothing to say except, I've always been into your stuff, and, the same crap. Anyways, the kid probably knew someone from the Cowboy Junkies, so he went backstage. He was backstage. He sees me and John Prine acting like a bunch of idiots. He comes up to me and says, "Is that all you can say to your hero?" And then he tells John Prine all my stories, including the urinal story. And John Prine was grinning from ear to ear and turned to me and said, "You're welcome anytime backstage." Now, after that, I've seen him both 3, 4, 5 times. I never did go backstage. And so that's my story.
That's your story, and you've got tons of stories just like it about all kinds of people.
One person online said to me, "You should do them live." And, but anyways, I'm having fun with it. People are having fun with it who haven't heard the stories. And I'm sort of keeping in touch with people all over, not just Kingston. But there's one person from Alabama that reminded me who she was. And there was someone from Vancouver who heard that story and said, "I've heard all your stories, but that tops the list." And so it's been reinforcing positively that way.
I get back to those 20,000 albums. How
78.
Oh, 20,000 78s in your barn.
Oh, no, 20,000 records in the barn. That's right. And right now I'm working on 78s and putting all, I'm making room for the 78s in the garage, and the records that I haven't gone through, I've been going through and putting them in the barn. So I've been reorganizing.
So that's what you've been doing with your time off.
So when that finishes, who knows what's but I'm getting a lot of reading done. I mean, I've since having the farm, I've been reading a lot, when I come there on Sundays, and I'm almost finished a biography of Duke Ellington. And also a book by David Byrne from the Talking Heads on how music works. And so I'm getting a lot of that done. And listen to radio, and because we don't have TV at the farm. We'll we get it on the computer. But it's been an interesting episode. But as it's only been a few weeks, I think. But as it goes on, if it goes on for months, that's another story. Like,
So what would you do with all this if you decide to retire someday?
well, I don't. As long as I'm healthy,
Yeah.
and I don't get killed by the virus.
Yeah.
I plan to, one day at a time, 1 year at a time. As long as I'm healthy, I can handle the store on my own,
Yeah.
on my own terms.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope people will get used to seeing an 80-year-old
Yeah.
bumbling around the store, and
Yeah.
But my customers are getting older also,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it gives them something to do.
All right.
And but no, if I'm, when I do retire, if it ever happens, not by choice, I told my wife to, if something happened to me, not to sell the place, because I mean, everyone wants to buy Brian's record option, but whenever someone else buys another business, it's never the same.
Right. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
the person behind the counter.
Right. Yeah.
I told her just put everything on auction, and just take whatever you want and do it that way. I mean, she could do whatever she wants after I pass away, but I don't plan to in the near future.
All right. Well,
I'm sure John Prine didn't either.
Yeah.
Which is a total shame.
Yeah. Well, what was it yesterday? Was it
Last night, yeah.
the last night? Yeah.
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 When I woke up this morning, I
Yeah.
found out.
Huh.
So that was a shame, because he was only in his early 70s. Mind you, he went through a lot of cancer treatments for throat cancer, and like for his last album, he looks awful. Like he looks like a little bit, like it's not John Prine, and his voice changed also.
Yeah.
But John Prine is John Prine,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so for Carbon and the City on CJAI, Amherst Island Radio, we've been talking with Brian Lipsin, Brian's Record Option, and a virtual legend here in Kingston, 40-year legend here in Kingston. Thank you very much, Brian.
I appreciate it.
Okay, have a good day.
Okay.
All right.
Does that work?
Yeah.